Are you ready? Let me play the music, some music here. Oh, cannot too loud. Here. Where should we do? In this way, and here we go.
Here we go.
Yes, 10 tips for. Let me play the music, some music.
Super.
Yeah, seems everything is very smooth. Okay, so are you ready?
Always.
Okay, let me see why the music doesn't work. Let me. Okay, at the very beginning, maybe I still need to give some instructions about our programming. Okay.
Oh no.
Okay.
Justin Bieber again?
Yeah, Backstreet Boy. 那已经进入直播间的朋友呢，可以在点上面3个点就转发到自己的朋友圈，可以让其他的英语爱好者或者想要提高英语口语的人，都受益。同时呢，到的人也可以签到，打上你的学校或者机构名，再加上你的姓名。如果你不方便说，你就打简单的1。如果方便的说，你比如说阳光创意吕国，你把你的机构名和姓名写上，这样我们知道有哪些人，咱们可以随时的提问互动。那么这个节目呢，是我跟Joe Martins， 他呢现在位于美国，我在中国北京，我们俩一起做一个节目，做直播，也欢迎大家互动，在互动的过程中，随时可以这儿提问。也如果讲的好的地方，也欢迎大家打赏鼓励我们。到的人可以回复1或者回复您的姓名以及单位，这样大家都可以随时提问互动。Okay, today our topic is 2 tips to improve your English speaking skills. Why do you choose? Okay, at the very beginning, maybe as usual, Joe, please introduce yourself to us. Can you hear me? Hello?
Yes.
Yeah.
I can hear you.
Now, introduce yourself.
Okay. So my name is Joe Martins, and I'm a former software engineer, business analyst, technical writer, marketing, worked with Fortune 500 companies for about almost 20 years. And then I came to China to help manufacturers sell their goods to the West. And then in the last year, I switched to helping people throughout China to improve their conversational English.
Great. Okay, it's my turn to introduce myself. My name is Lyu Guo, the founder of Suntrans. I was a teacher at a senior high school for maybe 20 years ago, and later I studied geology at China University of Geosciences, and also jointly cultivated by China University of Geosciences, the Chinese Academy of Sciences, and Miami University. Studied geomicrobiology, that is about interactions between bacteria and rocks. And when I also worked for the globally largest mining company, BHP Billiton. This is the largest company in Australia. And besides that, I also worked for China Geological Survey, responsible for the international cooperation between China mining government and other countries. And in the past 10 years, I full-time run current Suntrans. We are providing translation services in geology and mining, and help Chinese companies to purchase mines and oil fields in different countries. I have been in more than 30 countries to purchase mines and oil fields. So translation is number one. Translation in geology and mining is number one. We also provide some services about mining consulting and help some companies to raise money and deeply involved in some negotiation in mining investment. This is what we are doing. Okay, today move to today's topic. Joe, why do you choose this topic? Tips to improve your English speaking skills. Can you hear me?
Well, because it's very important. You spent the last 10 or more years of your lives taking English exams, studying vocabulary,
yes,
studying grammar, but the one thing that the schools do not teach, or they do not teach it very well, is how to actually speak in English. Specifically, how to have conversations in English.
Yes.
That's critical. I don't care if you have a 10,000 word vocabulary. I don't care if your grammar is perfect, and I don't care if you got perfect scores on your examinations. It doesn't matter. What matters is if you can actually understand me and if I can understand you. And that requires conversation skills, and those conversation skills will help you with your writing.
Yes.
And they will help you with your reading. So it's important to focus more energy, more time on learning how to communicate in spoken English.
Yes.
Not studying more vocabulary, not studying more grammar, because ultimately that is something that you can do later once you have the basics of conversation. So that's what this presentation is about.
Yes, I agree. In China, a lot of students are good at taking some exams and get very high scores, but they are mute English. They cannot speak fluently, or some of them can read English. A lot of them are have very huge, very large vocabulary, but don't know how to speak English. And some people may be good at do some comprehension. He has very good understanding to English, but don't know how to express orally. So today we will give some tips regarding how to improve our spoken English. Okay, let's say the first tip. Just ago we have introduced ourselves. Myself from Suntrans and Joe Martins from Street English. Okay, the first part. Okay, please.
The way that we're doing this today is we're going to cover 5 don'ts, 5 things that you shouldn't do if you want to excel at spoken English. Then we'll ask a couple of questions. Then we will cover 5 do's, things that you should do when you want to improve your spoken English. And then at the end, we'll have more questions for you, and we'll cover 2 bonus points, 2 tips that I added at the last minute.
Oh, sounds great. So everyone love bonus. Okay, let's see the next slide. Okay.
Okay. So the very first don't is you've been taught many words in English.
Yes.
And in many cases, you've been taught very complex words, words that the average English speaker does not use on a daily basis.
Right.
They don't even use these words on a monthly basis.
Right.
Some of the words that I hear from students and professionals in China are words that are almost never spoken in English.
Yes.
Part of the problem was that the school system taught you thousands of words. But these words, many, are just, they're not needed for basic daily conversation. So, tip number one, forget these complicated words. Forget the complexity of grammar. You're not trying to compete for an exam score. You're trying to communicate, and you're trying to seem like a normal person.
Yes.
Not like a robot. Okay?
Yeah.
So stop trying to use every vocabulary word you ever learned.
I agree with you.
And keep it simple. Simple. So you notice in my language right now, as I speak to you, the words are not complicated. They're simple. Because my vocabulary, my native vocabulary, is many tens of thousands of words. But I don't need to use them all, except in certain special circumstances when I'm talking to people, maybe engineers, maybe a boss, a CEO, a doctor or attorney. Okay, so then you can use more of your vocabulary. But 99% of the time, you're not going to need it.
Okay.
So,
hold on. I have a question. Maybe you can ask our audience. Two numbers. One is totally how many English words. The second is in our daily life, especially for American people. In our daily life, how many English words are used in our daily life? So two numbers. Now we give our audience maybe 10 or 20 seconds to reply, and then you also can search the number. I'm not sure if Joe, you also know the number. Just roughly, you can estimate. Now we can give our 20 seconds. Ask our friends, our audience to write the number. Totally, how many English words currently? The total number. You can just estimate. The other one number is how many words are used in daily life for American. 那么在这儿呢，我们先做简单的一个调查，看大家是否知道两个数字。现在的英语的总共的单词有多少？还有一个日常的美国人他通常用的单词有多少？我希望大家写上两个数字，比如说你日常的用的是1000还是5000还是10000，这是第二个数字。第一个数字呢，你估计一下英文单词它总共有多大的量。Please write down the number if you know. So, we can say about 136 participants here. So today, a lot of people in the very beginning of our conversation. Okay, let's say.
Right.
那大家可以在这儿回复英语总共有多少单词？美国人日常所使用的单词又有多少？请大家回复。If you know the number, please tell us.
You're
okay.
On a daily basis.
Daily basis.
Your vocabulary doesn't need to be larger than about 500 words.
500
for daily.
If a little bit complicated, maybe some people say less than 2,000 words. 2,000 words.
It depends on how we define a daily conversation. At home with family, maybe 500.
Okay, maybe our voice is delayed a little bit. We can see here some people say 1,500. Some people say 300. Some people say 1 million. Some people say 10 million. Totally, how many English words? Can you tell us? Two numbers.
If you use more than 500 words in your daily conversation, chances are it's in your job as a specific kind of professional.
Yeah. Do you know the GRE examination? How about the vocabulary?
No. In fact, never worry about the exam scores.
Yeah.
That's only important.
Just roughly, you can tell us the number.
Oh, I don't even know. I don't know. The reality is that the exam scores that you achieve in China don't matter anywhere else in the whole world. You don't care.
Yeah.
You don't care.
Yes. Yes, you're right.
When someone says to me, Joe, I got this score on my Junkao, Gaokao, I go, I don't care.
Okay.
Because
yes.
If you cannot talk to me, and if I cannot understand you, that score is irrelevant.
Yeah.
So don't worry about your score. Don't worry about, trying to use, some people will say to me, Joe, is that the subjunctive form of the sentence? And I say, are you kidding me? You don't need to worry about that. You're worrying about the wrong stuff. I don't care if it's subjunctive, if it's past tense, future tense.
Present tense.
And you will learn more by speaking than you will learn from any book you own. Any book, ever, in your entire career or in college or in high school. You will learn more from just speaking English and listening.
Yes. Here, a lot of people maybe give a good answer. Later, if we search that, we can tell other people at least 1 million. So a lot of people have mentioned at least 1 million. Totally the vocabulary. And for daily life, some people say 500. Some people say maybe 2,000. Anyway.
Yeah.
Your point is just keep it simple. Use some simple words to express ourselves, right?
Keep it simple.
Yeah, keep simple. Yeah, and if we really want to study at graduate school, maybe we need to take some GRE exams or GMAT exam. Maybe a little bit. Complicated. We need to enlarge our vocabulary, but just for our daily life, we don't.
Think of it this way.
Yeah.
When you're a baby and you've not even gone to school yet, you haven't started school yet, what do your parents do? They speak, and you speak.
Right.
You learn how to speak. And you learn how to have a conversation with your parents before you begin learning everything else in school.
Yes.
They will teach you some words, but they will also, by listening, teach you the sentences, they don't say, oh, this is a noun, this is a verb. They don't do that because that is not the way that people learn to speak for thousands of years. Thousands. We learn to speak first, and then when you have the basics, you begin to grow your vocabulary and your grammar. But school English school in China does it backwards. They teach you vocabulary and grammar before you even learn basic sentences. So it's a little strange, but to be fair, foreign languages taught in America are also taught backwards.
Yes.
So it's a problem everywhere. But know this, conversation is much more important than big vocabulary and perfect grammar.
Yeah, I agree with you. I can tell you one story. Maybe 12 years ago, when I went to study in the United States, some people say you are using some very large, extremely important words. Actually, you can use some very simple words to express your meanings. And so some friends say, "Oh, you seem always so formal," or sounds like you are reciting textbooks. Actually, for example, when we are taking a flight and you feel, oh, it's too dark, maybe you just to say, okay, please. Maybe the other one will know. Help you to help you with the curtain, and you don't have to say too complicated words. At least our communication can be finished with the basic purpose can be reached. So we don't have to feel awkward or don't know how to use it. So just keep it simple. But firstly, we can use it. Don't worry too much about grammar or vocabulary. We can realize the basic purpose. For example, when I went to Pakistan, I found some people were maybe just very basic. They are working. They don't know the local language. They don't know English, and they are not well educated. But they can collaborate to finish some project. Because of the drilling hole project, we are doing mineral exploration, and the local people can help each other. They just use their eye touch, or some gesture, or very simple words. They can finish the work and harmoniously work together. So sometimes, if we just try to communicate, finish the purpose, it's okay. Don't always worry too much about vocabulary and grammar. Is this your simple? And when we are reading English, I suggest we also read some English without too many strange or new words. If each page you have a lot of new words, you may feel frustrated. You cannot insist on reading. So continuously reading, that means you feel confident. Oh, I can understand very easily. Maybe gradually you will confident enough, improve a lot. Okay, simple is extremely principle. I totally agree with you. About this point, do you have more suggestions?
No.
Okay.
That covers it. Keep it simple.
Okay, keep simple. Okay, second.
Okay, so this one, to me, is very funny, because when I hear some people in China speaking English, I can tell you who taught them, because they try to imitate the accent, not the content. Don't worry about the accent. You, in your lifetime, you are going to hear so many English accents. In the same way that in China, you can hear the accents from different regions.
Yeah.
In the US and in Europe, you can hear many English accents. You're not trying to imitate me. Instead, just use your own voice.
Yes.
Develop your own English. Okay, when I was growing up, I did not try to sound like my parents I didn't try to sound like my friends. They have a different voice. They sound different than me. So focus on just being able to say what you want to say, to express yourself.
Yes.
Don't worry if you don't sound just like me. You don't need to. Right now, Dr. Lyu, you sound different than
Right.
me.
Yeah.
But I understand you completely. So it's not that you try to sound like me.
Yes.
You don't need to. You just be you, be yourself,
Yeah.
and I will be myself. Even when I attempt to speak Chinese, I do not try to sound like native Chinese speaker. I will never, ever sound like a native Chinese speaker. I will always sound like an American trying to speak Chinese. And that's okay. That's okay. If you understand me and I understand you, then you have accomplished your goal.
Yeah.
So don't try to sound. If I wanted to sound like I'm from New York,
Yeah.
I speak like I'm from New York, but I'm not from New York. So I don't speak like this. If I Boston, I park my car in the garage. I don't want to sound like someone from Boston. I just want to sound like me.
Yeah.
So don't try to imitate the accent. Just speak. Speak. Whatever your voice is, I will understand your English. Don't try to sound like I don't want 1.3 billion people in China to sound like Joe Martins.
Yeah.
That would
I agree with
very
you.
boring.
Yeah.
Very boring.
Okay.
Don't be boring.
Even for Americans, they pronounce some words in different ways. For example, one word I have noticed that in the very beginning of today's conversation, you mentioned actually, but when I went to the United States, one teacher told me he tried to correct my pronunciation. She said, "Oh, you should pronounce actually." A lot of people, Americans say actually is correct. So, some people like you also actually. So a lot, even for Americans, they also pronounce in different ways the same word. It doesn't matter. Everyone can understand.
This is why listening is so important, because you are going to hear a word pronounced slightly differently in many ways. You might hear 100 different pronunciations of the same word because everybody is a little different. Some people enunciate their words more.
Yeah.
I hate but they do. That's the way they speak. I have a very New England accent, northeastern U.S., because of the way that I pronounce many of my words. So don't worry about getting the word specific to a certain accent, because you will, over time, have your own accent, and that's okay.
Yeah.
In fact, I think that makes you much more interesting.
Yeah.
I don't want you to sound like you're from New York.
Right.
It would be boring if I went to China and everyone sounds like they're from New York.
Yeah. I can also take another example. Because in the past 1 decade, I went to Africa for many times. And in the very beginning, when I went to Uganda, I try to correct these people. I thought these people spoke English very fluently. But when I was young, I was educated. Oh, yes, madam, or yes, sir. But when I went to Africa, the local people say, madam, no, not madam. I tried to correct them. Yeah. Later, I found a lot of people, everyone, local people say madam. And this speak, the pronunciation is changed, varied in Africa compared to other places. So it doesn't matter. As long as all of these local people agree, it's okay. So, madam, both are correct.
Both okay. Both.
Yeah.
Just pick one.
Just pick one.
And also, keep in mind that in China, and I don't know why this is the case, but in China, most of the schools are teaching a British style of English, which, as an American, I find very funny because there are only 60 million British people. And there are 327 million Americans. And American English is much more common. But students in China are learning British English.
It's weird.
I learned British English.
It's understandable, just because in the history, maybe 17th century. In 17th century, UK was extremely developed, even developed than America. So at that time, UK was number one country in all of the world. But later, in the past 200 or more than 200 years, United States become number one. So nowadays, most people are still waiting to pronounce in American way instead of British English.
The British are still mad.
Yeah, yeah. So no matter British or
just pick one. If you like the sound of the British style of words, so for example, process instead of process. Aluminium, which by the way,
aluminium,
but aluminium, they add an I. I don't know why they add an I.
And different spellings.
Yeah, but aluminum versus aluminium, schedule versus schedule. Just pick one. Whichever one, I will understand you.
Right.
So, again, it doesn't matter if you speak British English or American English. I will understand you, and you will understand me. It's okay.
Yeah.
It's okay.
Even India English and Australia English, people really different. For Australia, some people say today, but they say to die. Sounds like to die.
Very. Well, we would say in English, we would say they have very thick accents. So, in fact, when you speak, when the typical person in China speaks English, they have a thick accent. But guess what? It's okay. It's okay.
Yeah.
As long as I understand you, it's okay. So don't worry about your accent. Your accent makes you unique.
Yeah.
It's a good thing.
Yeah. After all, we are not not everyone would be the host on on TV. So most people, we still must keep our characteristics by ourselves. Don't strictly imitate a certain accent. This is your
So the next point.
Next point.
Don't imitate the things you see on TV. Please don't imitate that.
Oh!
That is not the way that English-speaking people speak. That is the way that some writer somewhere who wrote the movie, who wrote the TV show, they decided to have the actors speak that way.
Yeah.
And so, Joey from the television show Friends.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
He says, "How you doing?" There is no American that says, "How you doing?" They don't. That is meant to be funny.
Mm-hmm.
They're in that TV show. They're making fun. They're making a joke about New York and the way they speak. You don't want to, unless of course, if your goal
Yeah.
is to sound like Arnold Schwarzenegger, I'll be speaking like Arnold Schwarzenegger. Okay. If you want to sound like Arnold Schwarzenegger, go ahead. But people are going to look at you funny because that is not the average way that, it's just speak your own way. It's okay to learn pronunciation, but don't try to imitate these actors on TV. I know that for many people in China, their only source of English material to study is TV and movie.
Yes.
But
No standard.
Don't.
Diversify English pronunciation.
Listen to the sentence, but don't try to imitate the pronunciation. These actors are acting. They're acting. They're not everyday Americans. They are not everyday English. Imagine for one moment if I watched a Chinese movie to learn how to speak Chinese. So I sound like some actor, Jackie Chan.
Jackie Chan.
You would say to me, "Joe, why do you sound like Jackie Chan?" Don't do it, because it's silly. It's silly. Just be you. So don't imitate my accent, and don't imitate the actors and the television actors and movie actors on TV and in the movies. Just don't do it. It's bad advice. If anybody tells you to do that, they are giving you bad advice. I don't speak like the actors on television.
Yeah, and we must. On the other hand, we must get used to different pronunciations when we go to different countries like Pakistan or Africa. Every country has their pronunciations. Oh, no standard. Oh, you are correct. Sometimes, as long as these people are using it, just you adapt to it. You don't say, "Oh, I cannot get used to it." You must to know familiar many different pronunciations. Then you can communicate with them. You cannot always say, "Oh, you are wrong." A lot of people say in this way. Why do you say, "Oh, you are wrong"? Must accept different pronunciations, accents.
It's okay to listen.
Yeah.
But try. Don't worry about imitating. That's all.
Yeah.
Just. My point is, do not worry about imitating.
Yeah.
Just listen and speak.
Yeah, and I remember when I was studying English at the very beginning, I disliked my pronunciation. Me each time if I keep record of my reading, and when I listen to my voice, I feel very terrible. So we must accept our personal voice by ourselves. Even it's different from some person, doesn't matter. At least you can try to talk with other people. Gradually, when you communicate more and more and become more confident, you can speak fluently. That's more important.
And you will speak fluently with your own accent.
Yeah.
That's great. That makes you a unique individual.
Yes.
Just be you. Be you. Don't try to be me.
Okay. Now I want to also give our audience one question. Just ago you mentioned pronunciation. Some people speak British English. Some people say American English. So if you are speaking British English, please write down 1. If you are speaking American English, please write 2. 1 and 2. 1 for British English. 那么我们在这儿做一个小的调查，看你是美式英语还是英式英语。如果是英式英语，你在这儿的在公屏上打1；如果你是美式英语，那打2。我们在这儿了解一下，对这个做一个调查。OK， maybe 20 seconds we can， 我们刚才这儿也特别强调，就是如果你是美式英语，你打2；如果是英式英语，你打1。我们在这儿请大家做一个互动。另外呢，有些人呢觉得这一个对话呢能帮助你周围的朋友提高口语，也请你转发到其他平台上。如果你觉得确实我们讲的精彩的地方，也欢迎给我们打赏。下面左下角有一个赏字，谢谢大家的捧场。从这儿看的绝大多数人呢是打的是2，看来讲美语的是比较多。学校里头确实大家都是在打1。说英式英语的人也比较多。所以刚才根据 Joe 的观点呢，是英式英语也好，美式英语也好，都没有关系。只要你能够讲出来，也保持你自己的特色就可以。Yeah, if you have questions about learning conversational English, please feel free to ask. We will answer here and using breaks in the discussion. 大家有问题也可以在这儿随时提问。So some people say British English, some people say American English. With more than 15 audience have given us the answer, replied us. Okay, let's move to the next one.
Okay, this one?
Yeah. Worry about making mistakes. Is it?
Yes. This
Okay.
one is
Please.
very important. One of the things that I noticed when I began teaching conversational English was that many people they lack confidence. They are worried that they will lose face.
Right.
Is it pronounced 面色?
Means a face. Yeah.
Yes. They don't worry about that. It's no English speaker is going to judge who you are just because your grammar is not perfect, because you mispronounce a word. We're not judging. We are glad that you're trying to communicate the same way that you would be happy if I'm trying to speak Chinese and my Chinese is not great. You would say, oh, Joe is trying. That's good. He's making a try to communicate.
Yes.
Same thing. So I want to tell a quick story. I was on the phone with a young girl, college girl, and in the background, on the phone, her brother was telling her, "Oh, your pronunciation is horrible." In Chinese, by the way, he was speaking Chinese. He's telling her, "Your pronunciation is horrible. You're going to lose face," speaking to this foreigner. And I told this girl to tell her brother to stop it, because I don't respect someone who won't try. He won't try because he is too worried about losing face. So what? To an American, we value, we respect when you try. If you don't try at all, we say, why? Why? Just try. If you make a mistake, it's okay. You try. You will improve. You will get better, but you won't if you don't try, if you don't practice. So don't worry about perfection. It's not about perfection. It's about just trying. And if you make mistakes and you want the native English speaker to give you advice, you could say, hey, if I make mistakes, can you tell me, suggest maybe another way to say something? And we will. But most of the time, if you make a mistake, we will still mostly understand you. And we won't be disrespectful. We won't stop and say, whoa, you made a mistake. Let me correct you. This is how you should say it. No, that's not what we do. We would just talk to you. You make your mistake.
Yeah.
And we keep talking. We just keep talking because as long as we understand you, it won't matter. Now, if we don't understand you, we might say, could you repeat that? Or we might say, could you say that in a different way? I didn't understand you. That's okay. But don't worry about making mistakes. Just try. Just speak. Have a conversation. Okay?
Yes. When I was at college, I was loved by my classmates. Sometimes when I couldn't speak English correctly, and sometimes I also scolded myself and couldn't broadly speak English. But later, gradually, I changed my mind because when I had a conversation with an American teacher, and I found even for American people, sometimes in their oral English, they also made some mistakes. Even we know Jack Ma from Alibaba, when he delivered a speech, he can speak very fluently, but he also makes a lot of mistakes. But doesn't matter. People can understand what he is talking, so the communication is still going on. So if we worry too much about mistakes, making mistakes is also necessary in order to make progress. After all,
yes.
This time you have made mistakes, and for the second time, you will find out, oh, I should correct them. Doesn't matter. So even mistakes is very necessary, is a must for us to make progress. So we don't have to worry too much about making mistakes. That's why some people say, oh, must love losing face. You don't worry too much. You worry too much. Don't worry too much about making mistakes. Gradually, people will you will become better and better. It's a process.
Yep,
yeah,
that's right. That's right. It's all about trying.
To error is human.
If you don't try, you won't improve.
Yeah.
And I learned English by speaking it, every day. You learned Chinese by speaking it every day.
Yes.
If you want to get better,
practice makes perfect.
Practice, and you will improve. And even in 10 years, if you make mistakes, there are millions of Americans who cannot speak perfect English.
Yeah.
It doesn't matter. Every day they have conversations. Every day they are understood, and they just talk.
Yeah.
They make mistakes, and these are people who grew up in America.
Yeah.
Who, every day they speak English, but
Yes.
they still make mistakes, and it's okay. It's okay.
Yeah. About this, one is mistakes. Some people make mistakes and feel very frustrated. Actually, as far as the whole process for myself to learn English, I have a very vivid example. When we are Chinese people like to drink tea, and we must heat the water to be boiled. And during the course, some people heat the water until maybe 50 degrees, 70 degrees, 90 degrees, but they stopped. And maybe 1 or 2 years later, he said, "Oh, I must continue to study English." And once again, from room temperature 20 degrees to 40, 60 degrees Celsius. Always repeat. So here, I want to emphasize, one is, if we don't worry too much about making mistakes, and keep on doing it for a long time, until one day we can use English to work, to communicate with other people, maybe you will confident enough. And so 2 points. One is once to learn, as long as you get started to learn English, keep on learning until you can use it freely. Second is, don't worry making mistakes. Even make mistakes, doesn't matter. It's normal. Everyone can make mistakes. Even sometimes we have been adults. Sometimes our Chinese Chinese characters also make mistakes. We don't remember which word is correct. For American, it's the same. Misspellings happens to many people. Nowadays, people are using computer a lot. But suddenly you ask him to write a certain English word. Maybe he is not very clear how to write it. Do you think it occurs to somebody? Yeah, it's normal.
It's normal. Just don't worry about the mistakes. And again, if you want us to give you advice, we would give it. But if you don't ask and we just have a conversation, we're not going to worry about correcting you, because you're communicating and we can understand you. And so as far as we are concerned, you're doing well. We don't need to correct you. That's not what communication is about.
I want to tell you one person. I guess I think everyone know him. That is Confucius. Confucius. Yeah, we know Confucius. He had about 3,000 students. About them, 72 were top students, very excellent. One of his, but he loved one student. He loved most. His name was Yan Hui. Why he loved this student? Just because the student didn't fear making mistakes, and he just tried. And when he failed, he also made some mistakes. But once or twice or 3 times later, he will draw a lesson from these failures and quickly avoid it from now on. So here, I also point out one thing. Don't worry about making mistakes. It doesn't mean we just always say nonsense. We just very beginning just try to speak and even make some mistake. Doesn't matter. But we also gradually try to summarize these mistakes and correct them is also necessary. Maybe once, twice, 3 or 4 times later, you can still make some mistakes. Try. On the one hand, don't worry too much. On the other hand, we also must put emphasis on them. After our conversation, after class, we must check what kind of mistakes we have made. We also must don't fall into the pitfall for the second, the third, the fourth time. Maybe we fall into some pitfalls once, twice, 3 times. It's normal. Everyone can make mistakes. But how about 3 or 4, 5 times later? We must correct them. Yeah, this is my idea. Yeah, we cannot indulge ourselves. Oh, Professor Joe said, doesn't matter about making mistakes. Sometimes, yes, you don't worry too much, but gradually you must also draw a lesson. After the conversation,
you will over time. You will.
Yeah, several times it's necessary to make mistakes. Okay, yeah. Let's.
You want to go to the next one?
Yeah, next one. Next. Harshly judge each other's performance. That's unacceptable. Unacceptable. Okay, please.
Before, in the last don't, I said, don't worry about making mistakes when you make them. This time I'm saying, don't worry about other people's mistakes. If you're making them feel bad, if you're judging them and saying, oh,
okay,
your pronunciation is horrible, your grammar is horrible, that to an American, this is unacceptable. It's okay if you want to be constructive, if you want to give good advice, if you want to be supportive and say, wow, at least she's trying, at least he's trying. But don't tell your colleagues or your friends or your family members, oh, your English is horrible. Instead, try to be helpful. Maybe both of you practice more. If your English is a little bit more advanced and you are able to understand more, help them. But don't make them feel
bad emotion.
Yes, because
frustrated.
Confidence is very important. In order to have the courage and to have the confidence to speak in a conversation, you don't want to feel bad. So it's so important. I told you a story before about the brother. Her brother should have been supportive.
Yeah.
Don't worry about losing face. Be supportive, and you can both improve. But I see this sometimes, and I think, wow, that person is, being criticized so much, they aren't going to want to speak.
Yeah.
And that's not good. That's not good, and it's not fair, and it's not nice. So be supportive of friends and colleagues and family that try, and try with them. If your English is better, go ahead, help them improve.
Yeah.
So that is the 5th don't.
Yeah. So in great degree, we should encourage people to speak more, even they make some mistakes. And if you really want to give him some give him suggestions, must be advisable and constructive, and encourage them instead of criticism. If If we scold or criticism, they may feel depressed, stressful, and will not try anymore. And so, as a spoken English teacher or your classmates, we should try to help each other and support each other, and don't scold them.
And this is true in every part of life. You know, it doesn't make a difference if you're learning a musical instrument, if you're learning how to paint, whatever skill you are developing or someone that you know is trying to develop that skill, of course, be supportive.
Yeah.
Same thing with language learning.
Yeah.
Right? If you're learning French, Spanish, English, doesn't matter. Just be supportive.
Right.
And if you have friends that aren't supportive, if those friends are very negative toward you while you're trying to learn, tell them that Joe said that they need to shut up.
Yes, you are right.
Because
if we want to have a harmonious relationship with other colleagues or friends, we must also encourage them and praise them, sing high praise for them, and they may feel confident and try more. So this is very important.
Yeah. Absolutely. And you know, there's a saying in English: if you have nothing good to say, don't say anything.
Right. Anyway, not negative comments. Okay.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay, let's try to the next one.
So the next one is 2 questions.
Yeah.
And if the audience wants to participate and answer those 2 questions in Chinese or in English, you know, I would love to know why are they continuing to learn English? Because you know, if they're out of school, what's their motivation? And what part of learning do they find most difficult? So, you know, if they want to answer, great. I would love to read some of their comments about those.
Yes, everyone must learn. Before learning English or even drill our spoken English, we must try to fully understand why it's important for us. If unnecessary, we may we had better spend some time to stay with family or on vacation or go to work or learning something else instead of learning English. As long as we trying to learn it, we must know the importance. Why it's essential for us. For example, when I was studying at Northwestern University, I have two things give me motivation. One is each time when I went to English corner, if I could speak English very fluently, a lot of beautiful girls I was surrounded by them, and they say, "Oh, you are very good at English. Oh, I must learn from you. You are my teacher." So I was admired by them, and then I studied English very hard. The second reason is each time if we learn English well enough, and we have opportunities to further study in graduate school, or go abroad to study in the United States or UK, Australia. This is another 2 reasons. The third one is some people all told us, if you are very good at English, maybe you can get a well-paid job. That means even when I was graduated from China University of Geosciences as a master student, and I found some of my classmates. They are very good at geology or geosciences, and I also studied geology, and I was good at English, and so I went to work for the globally largest mining company BHP Billiton from Australia, and as a result, my salary was 5 times of them. That happened in 2006. That's to say 14 years ago. Just because I was good at not only geology but also English. Jointly, I was stronger than some classmates. That's why 5 times of their salary. So I think if we really want to learn English well enough, must clarify the reason, the motivation, the force, which may push you forward.
Well,
okay, please.
I would say that.
Yeah.
Oftentimes, I have had students in China say, "Oh, every day I'm surrounded by people that speak Chinese. Why should I bother understanding or learning English anymore? I'm out of school, I work, why?" And I say, you never know where your life is going to take you.
Right.
If you have an opportunity at some point. It could be 6 months from now. It could be 5 years, 10 years from now.
Yeah.
Someday, because English is the number one business language in the world. It's spoken by about 1.5 billion people.
Yeah.
And if you want to be able to communicate with them, they're not learning Chinese. Very few of them learn Chinese because Chinese is an incredibly difficult language for a Westerner to learn.
Right.
Very difficult. Very few Westerners will ever put in the effort to learn Chinese well enough to communicate in a conversation. So if you've already learned a lot of English vocabulary, a lot of English grammar, now is the opportunity to practice it, master it, and when that opportunity comes, whenever, you will be ready. Even when we met, you and I, Dr. Liu, when we met, and you said hello, and what happened? We spoke for 3 hours.
Yes.
3 hours. That would not have happened if you weren't already able to speak English.
Yes.
We would have eaten lunch. We would never have met, and that opportunity would not exist.
Yes.
So you never know who you're going to meet on the train, on the plane, in the airport, at a conference, walking down the street, or at lunch.
Yeah.
You may have an opportunity to put that English to use to get a better job, to get a business opportunity for your business as you're trying to grow it. Maybe even just make a friend that otherwise you would never meet. So it's like any skill. I cannot tell you when you will use that skill, but I can tell you when the time comes, you will be ready. And that skill may mean the difference between the future you have today and a complete different and new future that you haven't even imagined yet.
Right, correct. So when I was studying English and using English, everywhere I try to, even in our daily life, everywhere I try to use English, just because I know it's useful. So no matter what we are doing, including learning spoken English, we first clearly think about the reason why we should do it. If it's clear, then we can do everything is necessary. I remember one professor taught us one story. That is In the World War II, some people, one country was trying to send some soldiers to Germany, and just to give them 3 months. You must learn German well enough. Otherwise, if the helicopter sent you to the Germany and you couldn't speak German, then maybe you will be killed. So these soldiers were forced to learn German within 3 months. As a result, 3 months later, almost everyone could speak German fluently. At least for daily life, they can deal with everything. So from this point, maybe when exams are waiting for us, maybe we are trying to get a well-paid job or a good salary, or we are trying to study overseas, or we want to make friends with foreigners. Anyway, think about the reason. Yeah, if it's clear, so you are very strong.
As I was listening to you, 2 other things came to mind.
Yeah.
One is, in the West, I would say 99.999% of Western universities teach in English.
Oh,
so
yeah.
I don't care where you want to go. Harvard, MIT, Yale, Columbia, University of Chicago, Oxford, they speak English. So if you can't have conversations with your classmates, conversations with the professors, it's going to make life more difficult.
Right, correct.
If
exactly.
Your goal is to go to a Western school, you have to be able to converse in English.
Yes.
It's not good enough to just read and write. Even when the university interviews you and they have a spoken interview, they're going to ask you questions in English.
Yeah.
And you're going to want to be able to answer in English.
Yes.
So that's one. The second thing is travel.
Yeah.
I guarantee you, if you go to most other parts of the world outside of China, they're not speaking Chinese.
Yeah.
They're speaking English. So if you want to go to America or England, yes, but also France, Germany, Sweden, Nigeria, Colombia, they speak not only their native language, Spanish, French, whatever, but they also speak English.
Okay.
So,
but some countries not always. For example, maybe a couple of years ago, I went to Costa Rica. I went to Costa Rica. I was an interpreter, and I also need a translator. So sometimes we need to learn more languages. But generally speaking, English was still used by most countries.
Think of it this way. Most businesses around the world.
Yes.
If you are a hotel, if you're a hotel,
yeah.
If you're a restaurant, I don't care if it's one in Tanzania, Africa. A hotel there and a restaurant there, if they want to make good income, their staff they have to have some staff that speaks English.
Yes.
Because they have many tourists from English-speaking countries.
Right.
So as a visitor from China to go to these hotels, to go to these restaurants, it is more likely that you can communicate with them in English than in Chinese, because their staff is going to speak the language that's most likely their customer. And the most likely language is not Chinese. It's going to be English. It's an easier language for them to learn.
Yes.
So it's just practical. It has to do with practical, not better or worse. It's not about, Chinese or English, which one is better. It's English is already spoken by so many people that it has become practical to learn it. That's all. It has been around the world for so long that people just decided one day, over time, that okay, we're going to speak English.
Yeah.
So if you want to travel, if you want to go to universities overseas, English is going to be hugely helpful for you. So that's it.
Yeah. I just answer one question. Some people say, "Oh, they just listen to part." Here I reply some questions. Some people when ask us, "Can we list all of them?" Some people say, "Just listen to half of our conversation." And I tell you， 那刚才我们讲的一会儿，我会把我讲的这10条呢，都简单的做一个总结。至少。而且呢，我们在播放完之后5分钟以后呢，就可以回放。在明天中午12点之前，所有的都是免费的。12点之后，如果再听，就会收9块9。那就是说，所以大家可以尽早的看，也可以在听完之后可以看回放。不要担心，我一会儿会用汉语也再总结一下这10条的建议。Okay, I just replied some questions by our audience. Okay, let's move to the next part.
Okay, so now we discussed 5 don'ts.
Oh.
But we're going to now discuss 5 important things to do.
Yes.
If you want to master English. Now, the first one is very similar to what I had said previously, but one of the keys to learning is repetition. Saying something multiple times until people get how important it is. So the very first do is master the basics of conversation.
Maybe firstly, I still summarize the former 5 don't. I just summarize them. And then we can continue to move to the second part. Is it okay?
Sure.
Okay.
Yeah.
我用汉语简短的把前面讲的这5条不要做5步，他今天讲了5要做5不做的这5件事儿。那么第5条不要做的，第5条呢，这儿又强调的是，我们一定要想清楚为什么就是学英语口语或者学好英语，为什么对我们来讲很重要。这是先把做这件事学英语的动力源泉找到，为什么重要，或者哪一部分呢是对我们来讲最难的，这是他讲的一条。那么还有一条呢，就是说，当你在学英语的时候，或者跟你同学学英语的时候，或者你教英语的时候，你尽量提一些建设性的建议。如果你确实有有些负面的这建议，尽量不要去提。或者提一些做好支持。如果你确实觉得不方便说，那你可以不说。要么要提就提建设性建议，让别人感觉到有信心，或者对自己也有信心。你如果老是不断的去纠正别人，或者说严厉的评判啊，指出啊，这样别人可能会觉得不舒服，最后学不好英语。那么第3条呢就是说不要担心犯错误，练英语口语也好，学英语其他方面技能也好。错了就错了，我们在错误中前行，错误也是我们所需要的。还有一条呢，不要刻意模仿电影或者电视里头的有些角色，比如《阿甘正传》里头，你非得要学阿甘，那他的发音不一定会被每一个人都去喜欢和接受。我们有自己的特有的方式就可以了。你还有一条呢，就是前面一条呢就是刚才提的，你的声音呢是独特的，我刚才已经指出了。那么还有一条是不要老想着用一些大的词儿或者一些复杂的词汇或者用语法，你尽可能简单的在一开始练口语的时候，用简单的语言能把它练出来说出来就很好，不一定非得用非常复杂的各种 时态语态想得过于复杂了，你可能连简单的都用不好了。这就是五不要，五要五不要。那五不要呢，就主要是这几条。这是我们接下来呢是就到第二大部分，就是要那些事儿不能做，哪些事儿要做。So you can okay. The first one, John, please master the basics.
Okay, so the next do is to set realistic expectations. This is very important. Sometimes people get the mistaken impression that they can take a couple workshops and be fluent. Many of them have studied English vocabulary and grammar for 10 years, 12 years, and they still did not practice enough to master the spoken language. It takes time. I speak this way, well, I'm speaking slowly for you, but I speak this way because I've spent many years mastering the language. It takes time. Yes, in a year, in 2 years, if you're consistent, you practice, you will improve more and more, but your fluency will not happen overnight. You cannot expect that you are going to take 2 months of workshops and suddenly you're going to have amazing conversations in English. It's not going to happen. You will begin to get the basics, but that's a start, and you need to keep at it. There are people who have been practicing hard. In fact, some of them I met in Wadaku, Beijing.
Yeah.
And they have practiced for more than 10 years, consistently.
Yeah.
And their English is excellent. It's excellent. They know many funny things
Yes.
about the English language that is only possible through experience, only possible through practice. You will not see it in a book. You will not be taught in a classroom. It only happens through conversation and listening and accumulating the experience. So set a realistic expectation that, okay, you know, if I practice as much as possible, every day would be ideal, but maybe for you it isn't. But if you practice as much as possible,
right,
whenever possible, in a few months, you are going to see progress. It's like working out at a gym. You cannot expect to have a beautiful body after 2 weeks at the gym.
Right.
It's not going to happen, right?
Yeah.
It takes time. It takes dedication. It takes commitment. If you want to become good at playing a piano, it's not going to happen in 2 months. It takes time.
Right,
it takes
correct.
Dedication. It takes commitment. So, if you're realistic with yourself, don't lie to yourself.
Right.
And you if you stick with it, if you remain committed, you will get better at it. But be realistic. You will be very disappointed if you think you're going to be amazing at English in 2 months or 6 months.
Okay, here I want to introduce 2 concepts, two phrases. I remember one English professor classified the English words we mastered into 2 parts. One part is positive English words. The second part is passive English words. That's to say, for some words we just when we read books, we find it we know it, and we can read it. For some English words, we can freely to use it. Some words we can listen, just listen and read. But for some words, we not only can listen to, but I can use freely. You can tell other people through via spoken English or some way. So for a lot of for our English spoken English learners, we don't have to make every word become we can use them freely. Maybe for some words, if you know it or you listen to the word, you know the meaning. It's okay. But for some words, some very basic words, we within 2,000 words or 500 words, you must use them very freely. And so words and words are different, case by case. Some words you just know it, know the meaning. Oh, when you listen to the word, okay. But for some, not always. Sometimes you need to write. Sometimes you need to speak with these words. So classified the words into two parts. Some are passive words, and you just know it. Doesn't matter. For example, GRE. A lot of GRE words. When I went to the United States, I found many Americans even don't know the meaning. Needless to say, Chinese people, Americans don't know if we are specialized in geomicrobiology, like I studied. Oh, even a lot of Americans don't know the meaning of the word. This is the first time for them to know the word. So
you have to know your audience.
Right.
For example, when I'm speaking with my brothers and sisters, my siblings, I don't use the same type of vocabulary that I use with speaking professionally.
Yeah.
Part of it, one reason is that my vocabulary is bigger than theirs. So I don't want to use words that they're not going to understand.
Right.
For two reasons. First is they're not going to understand me. The second is they're going to think that I'm being a snob. That I'm pretentious. Ooh, I know these big words. It's annoying. It's annoying. In fact, I try to tell the people that come to the workshops to learn conversation, I tell them, look, don't, you need to learn the audience, meaning learn who you're speaking to.
Right.
If you're going to use certain words with them, words that aren't necessarily appropriate for the conversation, they're not going to like you very much.
Yes.
They're going to think that you're trying, even if you're not, okay? You may be just innocently using words that you learned. That's
right.
it. You're not trying to be, mean. You're not trying to be pretentious, like you're smarter than they are. But it doesn't matter, because in their mind, they're listening to you and they're thinking, why is Joe using these words? It's silly. He speaks to me like I'm a politician. He speaks to me like I'm a university professor.
Right.
No, you know who you're speaking to. When I speak to children, when parents speak to children,
Daddy, mommy, very cute, lovely, very simple words.
Simplify it.
Yeah.
Well, and simple sentence. So it's okay to use those words, but know the audience and the right time to use it. And how do you know? You only know through time and experience.
Yes.
When you're participating in conversations with colleagues, with your boss, listen to their language, and you can understand the complexity of their grammar,
Yes.
of their words. And what you do is you mimic. You go, oh, okay. I'm going to use a better vocabulary, a better grammar with this person because it is my boss.
Right.
But I speak with my friends, maybe I use a different vocabulary and a more simple grammar. So you need to know who you're speaking to and adjust your complexity. But that only comes with experience. Again, you will not learn them from a book, and I guarantee you have not learned that in a classroom.
Yeah. Okay, great. So master the basics. Okay, my opinion divides the words into two different types. Okay, let's move to the next. I want to also do a questionnaire. How many English words you yourself mastered? Maybe give 10 or 20 seconds. Ask our audience. How many English vocabulary you mastered? Here, please answer. 那么大约你自己掌握了多少词汇？多少是积极词汇？多少是消极词汇？大家可以在这个公屏上这样说一下。积极词汇就是听说读写你什么都能用。消极词汇 passive vocabulary 指的是你只能听只能读，但不会灵活应用。所以这两类词汇，我们并不是所有的词汇都同样需要把它们掌握的听说读写都能用的。好，那大家看一下，你个人掌握了大约有多少词汇？大家可以在这儿回复一下。比如说你掌握你自己预估有2000、5000、8000词汇，我们在这儿做一个小小的调查，看看大家的词汇量有多少。我们同时呢，有些人如果觉得这些节目有用，可以转发到你的朋友圈，或者转发到其他群里，也可以随时在这儿提问。特别感谢大家，刚才还有好几个还有 oral English words and writing English words、written English words。刚才有些人呢也把是口语中的所用的词汇或者书面语用的词汇，这也是一种方法。这也是这老王王老师在这儿也提到了。还有是山鹰一位呢也留了言说 I began to learn foreign languages just because I love it. I like it. For me, language is an art. So and a lot of people left a message here. Very interesting. Okay. Let's move to next part about realistic expectations.
Okay. The next one is do talk to yourself in English. I know this sounds weird. Well, I was at an English corner at Renmin University, and one person said to me, he said, I never have an opportunity to really practice because I don't meet many foreigners. And I said, you can talk to yourself anytime. And he thought, but what if my English is terrible? What if my English is incorrect? And I said, don't worry. There are many Americans, many British people, their English is horrible. But by talking aloud to yourself, you are practicing, whether you think so or not. Now, I have an example for you. When you were a teenager and you were thinking about, maybe in China, college student. So you were a college student thinking about a boy or a girl that you like.
Yeah.
Have you ever talked to yourself out loud, imagining your conversation with them.
Too many times.
You say, "Hi, how are you?" "Oh, I'm fine, thank you." "Oh, would you like to go to the movie?" "Oh, I would love to go to the movie."
Talk to oneself.
You talk to yourself and you imagine talking to them because you're thinking about, what will I say when I see her? What will I say when I see him? You don't realize, but you're practicing.
Yes.
You're practicing. You can do the same thing with English. You can say, "Hey, how are you today?" "Oh, I'm fine, thank you." You have an opportunity to use your voice. Your voice is your instrument.
Right.
And you can use it with yourself. Don't worry. Remember, earlier, I said, don't worry about mistakes. Don't worry about perfect pronunciation. It's about the practice. So I don't care if you get a mirror. Go to your bathroom. Go to your bathroom, look in the mirror, and have a conversation with yourself. Now, you might think that's crazy, but it's an opportunity to practice. If you're serious, if you really want to learn, if you really want to have improve your skills, you don't have to wait for some foreigner. You don't have to wait for your classmates, your colleagues. You can have a conversation with yourself, and I know it sounds crazy, but it works. It works. You have to try, and you will notice that over time, the more comfortable you get with saying things in English, easier. You feel more confident, and it happens more naturally.
Yes.
That's extremely important. So, do talk to yourself in English.
Yes, I can tell you some experience about myself. About 20 years ago, at that time I just graduated from Northwestern Normal University, and I wanted to teach at the senior high school and teaching English. Actually, my first degree was my first bachelor degree was about English, and I also, on the one hand, I'm preparing for TOEFL examination, and on the other hand, I also teaching. I can tell you some stories. Maybe 20 years ago, when we were studying about TOEFL, we can say maybe there are 10 conversations. The conversations are very short and very interesting. For example, firstly, maybe one lady will ask one man. Maybe asks one lady, "Okay, would you like to go to the cinema with me tonight?" Okay, and then the lady would say, "Oh, I'd love to, but I have to prepare for tomorrow's test." And then 4 answers, which the lady will go or not. Anyway, very short conversation. When I read the whole conversation, I repeat after the tape, at that time still tape, or a computer, and then I retell the conversation, and just to myself, talk to myself. I can imagine. I imagine something may happen to the lady. The lady, there are several possibilities. The lady may really want to go to the cinema with the man, but she was extremely busy that night. The second possibility is anyway, just by our imagination, I can compare a long story, and talk to myself. Every conversation a story. A short novel, and by this way I practice my English. Just talk to myself and learn mimic the pronunciation from the tape, and this is the way I learned English 20 years ago. Sounds like a long history.
And when you're reading books, many of us read silently, but read aloud.
Read loudly.
Aloud.
Yes.
Yes, so that you can hear your own voice saying the English sentences. The more you do that, the more you're going to just naturally listen for the sounds, because words are nothing more than combinations of sounds. And you want to become just naturally hear those sounds. Imagine when you're sitting in a room full of people, and someone.
Oh, small potatoes. We are eloquent and speak to a lot of people. Public speaking.
Well, you're in a room full of people.
Yes.
And someone far away says your name.
Yeah.
You recognize the sound.
Yeah.
You go, oh, somebody. It doesn't make a difference if you're talking. You hear it. You go, somebody said my name.
Yes.
That's because you have heard your name said so many times.
Right.
And you have said your own name so many times. Boom, you hear it. The more you hear yourself speak in English, the more you hear others speak in English.
Yes.
You will notice that even in a room where someone is speaking back there, you're going to go, oh, I know what they're saying.
Definitely.
I know this conversation.
Yeah.
It's the talking to yourself is just another technique.
Yes.
It works. It works. It's the same thing you do when you imagine what you're going to say to your boss tomorrow, what you are going to say to your wife tomorrow. You pretend, you talk to yourself. So, now do it in English.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
That's very useful. I did that 20 years ago. Okay. Now let's move to the next one. That is next page. Talk to yourself.
This one?
Oh, yeah. Talk to yourself in English. Sounds weird, doesn't it? Well, it works. Oh, we have...
Well, we're on the next one.
Yeah, next one. Yeah, next one.
So the next one is similar, but not. Now I'm saying, before I said talk to yourself in English.
Yeah.
Now I'm saying think in English. Now imagine for a moment, if you're thinking about your day tomorrow, what you're going to do at work, school, at the grocery store, what do? You actually talk to yourself in Chinese. Inside your head, with no words. Inside your mind, you're saying sentences in Chinese. You know, you're thinking in Chinese because you're fluent in it. It's your language of choice. If you really want to master any language, French, Spanish, English, any, you will know the day that you are really getting fluent at that language.
Yes.
When you can think in that language, when you can hear sentences in your mind and have conversations in your mind without saying anything.
Yeah.
In that language. Try it. Try looking at a book.
Yeah.
Don't speak. Read in your mind, and you don't realize it, but you're talking.
Right.
In your head, in the language. Imagine your boss says, we have a problem. I need you to figure out a location for our annual company party.
Yeah.
And tell me tomorrow where the location will be. Well, one way to practice.
Yeah.
What would you think in English?
Right.
Inside your mind, you might say, oh, well, there's a nice conference hall in, northeast Beijing that is big, and it has enough people, it can hold enough people, and it's a very beautiful place. But do it without speaking. Think it. And that ability to solve problems in another language in your head,
Yes.
then that is a sign of a advanced English. Once you can do problem solving in your mind, can you do mathematics in your mind in English? Can you say 1 + 2 = 3 in your mind in English? Not using Chinese numbers, Chinese pronunciation, using English.
Yes.
Try reading, open up a math book and read. Look in the grocery store as you're shopping and tell yourself which foods you're going to buy next.
Yeah.
I need milk. I need eggs. I need bread. In your head.
Yeah.
So not only speaking it, but thinking it.
Yes.
Once you've got this, your writing, your reading, everything will improve when you can think in the other language.
Yes. Yes. According to my personal experience, I think everywhere, as long as we can use English, just try to use it. For example, when I was at high school, at the university, I remember even I took notes in class. I also in English, and when I studied at Chinese Academy of Sciences for my PhD, when I was on the one hand we read a lot of scientific research papers. On the other hand, we also just we did a lot of experiment, and all of the notes were written in English. And I also kept a diary every day, also in English. And when I'm making friends, I also try to make phone calls or just use QQ, talk with them in English. And gradually my English was improved very quickly at that time. And when I was working for BHP Billiton, because in our team, maybe from many different countries, our colleagues, very diverse, and so all of us spoke English, and so that my English was improved quickly. Just because use it, learning English, learning some specialties also in English. For example, I was trying to study geology, petroleum, mineralogy, petroleum. I also borrowed a lot of books from library and learned them in English, because these textbooks all are English books, and I read the textbooks loudly in English, and made great progress at that period of time. When I am thinking, when I took a car, took a taxi on the street, when I saw some brand, some store brand, I also talk English to myself. Oh, it's good, or it's not good enough, the color, and think in English. It's very important. Yes, I agree with you. Okay, so should we move to the next one?
Yes.
Okay, practice makes perfect. Okay.
So, yes. This, I cannot emphasize this enough. The only way for you to master this, just like I mentioned earlier,
Yes.
if you are practicing instruments, if you're learning how to do carpentry, if you're a mechanic who fixes cars, the only way to master a skill is practice. And
Yes.
of course, that is why the very famous saying, practice makes perfect, is quite true. Every opportunity you have,
Yeah.
you should be attempting to practice. If you're not practicing, and then
Yeah.
you come to me and you say, I'm not very good.
Yeah.
Well, have you been practicing? Probably not. So you can't complain, right?
Right.
If you practice 1 hour per day of violin, in 1 year you're going to be pretty good. You're not going to be a master violinist, but you're going to have improved quite a bit. If you practice 1 hour each month, and 1 year later you wonder why your peers are much better, it's because you hardly practice.
Yes.
So every opportunity you get, if you talk to yourself, just talk, and you will find improvement.
Yes.
It seems like in English we would say, "Oh, this is common sense."
Yeah.
Meaning everybody knows this. Why should we have to tell them? They should know this already.
Yes.
But if it was common sense, well, I would be able to walk down the street right now in any city in China, and everybody would be speaking English.
Yes.
And Chinese, because they would have practiced. But millions of Chinese students never practice. So right now, if I were walking, well, not today, because there's probably nobody on the street in Beijing today, but
Yeah.
normally, I walk down the street in Beijing and I pick out anybody and I try to have a conversation with them. Chances are they are not going to feel confident. Chances are they're not going to be very good at it, but that's okay to me. To them, they haven't been practicing.
Yes.
They feel like, oh, this foreigner is asking me questions. I can't have a conversation with him. I don't feel comfortable. I'm not good, because they haven't practiced. So practice all the time, every opportunity. This is why when I'm in Beijing, I do workshops every day.
Yeah.
Sometimes I do 5, 6, 7 workshops per day, 1 hour each. And it's people who want to practice.
Yeah.
They come and they sit for an hour and they practice their speaking. And that because they know the value
Yes.
of practice. And just like going to the gym to get fit,
Yeah.
you do it daily. You go practice English daily.
Yes.
Or whichever language you're learning. So
Yeah.
practice.
Yeah. 24. 24
Number.
years ago, when I was a freshman at college, every morning I got up at 6:10 in the early morning, and just simple washing, and then I went to recite English or read English loudly every day. Almost for my 4 years at college, I always did that. Even later, when I went to the United States study for my PhD, I also read loudly every day. So if I didn't speak English for 4 or 5 days a week, I feel I almost couldn't open my mouth. Feel so awkward, so embarrassed. If we really want to learn a foreign language good enough, we must try to drill our mouth muscle and to repeatedly, consistently, not just once. Roma is not made within one day. English, for learning English, we maybe at the very beginning of our today's conversation, I also mentioned that example. That is heat the water. We had better heat the water from the temperature to 100 degrees so that it is drinkable just once. Don't waste your energy, your time to 50 degrees, then cool down, and then rise up to heat once again 80 degrees, then forgot all of the English, once again relearn English. Actually, I found a lot of people, even they are 40 years, 50 years, they still say, oh, I didn't learn English well enough. Actually, in order to save time, energy, and our time, we had better to do it once, just until we can use it. So keep learning every day until you can use it freely. Use spoken English freely. This is very important.
Yes.
Yeah.
So just practice every opportunity. You'll get better, and in a few years, you won't even remember how basic your language skills used to be, because you will end up speaking Chinese. If you speak Chinese and English, you speak the two major languages of the world.
Right.
Between those two languages, you can communicate with approximately 3 billion people.
Yes. Yes.
It's amazing.
Yes.
So if you master these languages, you will have better communication skill in terms of sheer number of people that you can communicate with than any other language combination in the world. French people who learn English,
yes.
So what? They can speak to people who speak French and English. That's not many people. It might be, I don't know, well, I shouldn't say not many. It's more like 2 billion, because approximately 1.5 billion English speakers. But if you speak Chinese and English, those are the two major languages. That's incredible.
Yeah.
And I guarantee, I can tell you this, very few English speakers are Chinese. I would be shocked. I'd have to research it to tell you the exact number, but it's not high, because even in American universities, Chinese is a difficult language to find. Many universities, they teach German, French, Spanish, the European languages, but most Asian languages, Vietnamese, Japanese, it's a lot more difficult to find quality teachers in the U.S.
Yes.
And programs, really good programs. So it's partly lack of desire. Not many English speakers want to learn it.
Right.
And availability. Not many places. I know where I live in New Hampshire, extremely difficult. I know one university that's about an hour away from me that teaches some Chinese. So, you're more likely, if you learn English, to be able to communicate with others than they are to be able to communicate with you.
Yes.
So, think of that. It puts you at an advantage in business. It puts you at an advantage even in just ordinary daily conversations when you think of the number of people that you can communicate with.
Okay, yes, I agree with you. Yeah. And let's move to the next one, practice with friends and family.
Yes, we covered 5 do's and 5 don'ts.
Mm-hmm.
I want to cover 2 more.
Yeah.
I told you to practice with yourself.
Yeah.
And in general, practice when you can. But this is a little bit different. I remember this was another English corner. By the way, when I am in Beijing, I attend different English corners at different universities. And it's groups of students and people living in China who practice English.
Yes.
So when I am in these groups, I learn what matters to them, what concern they have about learning the language.
Yes.
And one of this gentleman, he said to me, "My son is learning English. He's 7, 8 years old. He's learning English, and his English is better than mine. So I don't want to talk to him in English because I don't feel I'm good enough." And I said, "You are taking an opportunity away from your son. You can practice your English with your son at home.
Right.
Conversations. Yes, the conversation may not be perfect, and yes, his English may be better than yours. But
Yes.
you can learn. He can learn from you, and you can learn from him.
Yes.
But if you never speak because you're afraid to speak, your son is missing opportunity."
Maybe he is always pursuing perfection, always perfect, and then he said, "Oh, it's okay. Actually, we don't have to be perfect enough."
Yes, but then he can only practice at school.
Right.
Right? If nobody at home, if mom and dad are never talking to their kids also in English, then the only opportunity that children have is to practice at school.
Yeah.
Or with their friends. So think of it this way. At home, if you tell your children, "Hey, sometimes let's try having conversation in English."
Yes.
Just try. Maybe half the time. Have conversations in English. Yes.
Yes.
It's going to be. It might be awkward at first. You might go, "Oh."
Just you mentioned that man who couldn't, who was not willing to practice in English with his son. Actually, he spoke English. He was able to speak English with you and tell you the story and the relationship. He used the English to tell you. Oh, he couldn't speak English well enough with his son. It's funny.
It's what I told him. That's exactly what I told him. I said, "Hey, what are you doing right now?" And he said, "What do you mean?" I said, "Well, you're speaking English. So why aren't you speaking English at home with your son?" And he said,
Yes.
I said, "So, practice with your family, practice with your friends."
Yeah.
You do not need a foreigner. Yes, it's helpful. Yes, because we have weird things that we say that is unique to English conversation. But you will learn those things over time. You will learn. But practice with your friends. Practice with your family. These are opportunities. If you're not taking these opportunities, it will take longer for you to improve.
Yeah.
So don't waste the opportunity. So that's the do. Then there's the don't. What I mean by don't just learn with your ears is this.
We must use our mouth.
Well, throughout this entire presentation,
Right.
What have I been doing? What have I been doing? I've been talking with my body.
Yeah.
I use my hands.
Your gesture, your face,
I use
your eyes.
Everything. It's the same in your native language, right? When
Yes.
you're speaking, you're expressing yourself with your entire body.
Right.
Now, it is true, people love to text on their phones. It has no expression, really. I mean, who wants to say, ha 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 on a text. It's stupid. It's stupid. It's. I would rather laugh. That tells you something about what I'm thinking. When you see my face, I can tell when I'm talking to you. I can tell if you're bored.
Yes.
I can tell if you're
body language.
Yes, body language, non-verbal, right?
Right.
You use your body. So, just like when you're speaking Chinese, if you use your hands like me, I'm constantly using my hands.
Yeah.
If I start speaking Chinese and I don't use my hands, I look like this. This is boring.
Very solemn, boring.
It's a robot.
Right. Robot.
So, don't worry. Just the way that you talk in Chinese, use it, adapt it to English. Express yourself with your face. Express yourself with your body.
Yeah.
And you will find that people will understand your English even more.
Yeah.
Because they can see you as well as hear you.
Yeah.
And so it's a package. It's a package.
Yeah.
The two go together very well. Yes, when you're on the phone and they cannot see you, or you're texting and they cannot see you, you have to find other ways to express yourself with emojis. But, in person, use everything. So don't just use your ears, use your entire body to learn and to express.
Yes.
Very important.
Yes. Okay, here someone summarized one sentence in Chinese. 一鼓作气，再而衰，三而竭。这是咱们一位伙伴总结的，Singer 这位伙伴总结的非常好。就是前面我们说学英语不要像烧开水一样，烧了50度晾凉，再烧到80度再晾凉，反倒不如一次性烧到100度可以喝。那这咱们听众中有高手，大家的交流的描述的就用这3个词呢，就表述的非常好。So I just explained to our audience. Someone summarized our points very clearly with concisely, with simple words.
Oh, great!
Yeah.
Perfect.
Okay, let's move to the next one. Is it? Okay, please.
So the last one is just a couple questions for the viewers.
Yeah.
And basically, earlier I mentioned that some people question why. Why learn English?
Yeah.
So I would like to know from them, is English important currently to your job?
Yeah.
And what have you been doing in the past to improve your English? So, if they would like to respond now or later, I would love to hear what they've been doing, and also if English is currently part of the job that they, if they, for example, improve their English, would they improve their opportunities within the company that they currently work in?
Yes.
And that's the end of the presentation. If anyone has questions about any of the points that we covered today, I would be happy to answer either in the messaging for the app, I can answer there, or at the end of the presentation, it is the QR code for both my WeChat and Dr. Liu's WeChat.
Maybe we can give them 10 or 20 or 30 seconds to ask questions. We can play some music and give them. 大家如果有问题，现在可以提问，我们来做一些解答。那么这一部分呢是问答环节。 大家如果有问题可以，在中国这会儿可能有些人已经在午休或者吃午饭了。对咱们的 Joe 先生呢，他还在美国，那么这会儿已经是深夜1点钟了，正好跟咱们有12个小时的时差，是比较辛苦的。凌晨1点钟给咱们在一起做直播，大家有问题可以现在可以提醒。So up to now, today's audience about 248. Compared to yesterday, maybe double or even triple times.
Wonderful.
Okay.
One of the things that we plan to do in over the course of the coming weeks is to do more of these workshops.
Yeah.
And basically cover different kinds of topics. In fact, what we would love is if you have ideas, if you in the audience have ideas about what you would like to hear us discuss in English, I encourage you to send us a message and tell us what you would like to hear us discuss in English. And in a future video, live stream, we'll discuss some of those topics.
Yeah. Okay. So up to now seems no more questions. Maybe
okay.
Can you summarize today's conversation and okay, please.
Yep.
Yeah. Oops. Summarize. Please.
So conversational English, as you can probably tell if you've been with us for the last couple hours, conversational English is the single most important skill. It's not vocabulary and grammar. That will come with time. And of course, many of you already have pretty extensive experience with vocabulary and grammar.
Yes.
But it's the conversation that's going to make the difference. Your ability to communicate, to express yourself in English, it's not about answering questions. If you think that that's what English or any language is, then you misunderstand. Think about Chinese. In Chinese, you don't just sit around saying, 洗手间
洗手间 and toilet. Amazing.
That's not, you don't do that, right?
Yes.
You have conversation. You talk about your kids. You talk about school. You talk about your family.
Yes.
You talk about the things that you talk about your mother's cooking and how much you like it. Or your father's cooking. You have real conversation.
Yeah.
You want to develop that same skill in the other languages, whichever language you're learning.
Yeah.
You want to be able to have that kind of conversation in those languages. So when I'm practicing with students in China, I talk to them about everything. We talk about what we like to eat, where we like to go, what our dreams are, what our hobbies are. We talk about everything because you need to be able to think and speak in English the way that you think and speak in Chinese.
Right.
So, talk about everything, not just where is the bathroom, how do I get to the train station? If that's all you talk or practice, that's not fluent English. That's just sentences. That's very different. That's called, in English, we call it transactional English.
Yeah.
It's question, answer, question, answer. That's not conversation. Conversation is interaction.
Yeah, interaction.
Back and forth.
Yeah.
Yes. And in fact, some conversation, no matter where it starts, maybe you started by talking about the weather.
Right.
I guarantee by the time the conversation is done, you will have talked about 20 different topics.
Yeah.
You know,
something interesting or about yourself, your family, your colleagues.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That.
A whole bunch of topics available.
Yeah. So think of it that way. Conversation, very important. Practice, very important. Take every opportunity. Don't worry about being perfect. And, just generally take every opportunity that you can to improve. And you will get there. You will, over time, if you aren't already, over time, you will be surprised at how well you do with English in, a relatively short time. Within a year or two, basic English conversation will become pretty easy to you.
Okay, so, here, asking one question. Some people is asking, how about your vocabulary? You roughly, you estimate how many English words you have mastered?
Oh my God. Well, my skills are very large. I have a very large skill set. So, for example, within engineering, within software development, within marketing, business analysis, technical writing, computing. So I don't just have a basic English vocabulary. I have vocabulary from several areas of specialization. So my vocabulary is many tens of thousands of words, but do you know how often I use these words? Very rarely. Unless I'm talking to a software engineer about software development, I don't use any of those words from software development. So, yeah, I have a big vocabulary, but there are some words that I might use once every 5 years.
Yeah.
So, it's good to know the word. That's fun, because then if someone says it, you understand it. But sometimes you will not hear words for a long time. And it's because they're not necessary. If you're not in that profession, you don't really need to know those words unless you like the language. If you just like learning language, sure. If you want to have a 40,000 word English vocabulary, you can with practice, but you're probably going to use maybe 500, maybe 1,000 in everyday conversation with most people.
Yeah.
So I choose simple language. There are many words that I could have used during this conversation that would be ridiculous. I don't need, for example, I'll give you one quick example, and it's one I hate. People in America